Hi and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to do something slightly different. I'm going to be doing my reaction to a TV show, Dr. Foster, where there's a GP who's got off the rails and is doing some crazy stuff. Apparently it's a really good show, so I thought I'd take a look at it with you and let's get into it.
Good morning, Julie.
Not really.
What's happened?
Jack's ill. Not coming in.
Oh, why?
That's his final warning.
What did he say?
Gastroenteritis.
Saw him in the pub last night.
All right, how many on is this morning? 12. Julie, see what you can do. Take the appointments down to 8 minutes. Okay.
8 minutes is impossible.
So I know this feeling all too well. As it is, GPs, the NHS, we're stretched and we don't have an abundance of staff. So when someone goes off sick, it really has an impact on everyone else. And that means that you have to cut down appointments from the usual 10 minutes down to 8 minutes. Now, for simple things, 10 minutes or just about 8 is just about enough, but for anything remotely complicated, that makes life much more difficult. And believe me, it's a stress for the doctor as much as for patients, because that then inevitably leads to consultations taking longer and then patients in the waiting room for a lot longer. So it's a tough system to work in sometimes, and working just at 8 minutes for a GP consultation is impossible, as they said. So gastroenteritis, also they mentioned that at the start, that's essentially the medical word for a stomach bug or food poisoning. So yeah, you can't go back to work until, usually it's 48 hours until your last episode of whether it's the diarrhea or vomiting.
Meals, soup, tomatoes, meat, onions.
Yes.
She was there on a Thursday. I had a headache that day, which isn't the primary reason I'm here, but now I mention it. I've had them for years. It's on your notes. Last weekend, I saw a documentary. They said headaches have historic...
Gordon, can we get back to those specific symptoms that brought you in?
Okay, so that's a really interesting encounter, because something that most GPs will encounter, a patient who just goes way off tangent and does not stick to the symptoms, but telling you about all these other things, or symptoms that have been there for years, when it's clearly not what's brought them in right now. And while that's sometimes useful, and I guess patients want to give you the full story, that does make it a lot more difficult for us, especially if you've only got 8 minutes. On the other hand, her body language was terrible. She wasn't looking at the patient, she kept on looking at her watch. Definitely a no-no. And she was pretty rude, actually.
I lay there with my eyes open all night. I only get a couple of hours and then I'm falling asleep in the day.
Have you had any recent big changes? Moving house, new job?
No.
Do you have a partner?
Aren't there pills?
Sleeping pills, yes, but I wouldn't prescribe them in your case.
You wouldn't prescribe sleeping pills for someone who can't sleep?
Only if we've tried everything else, or there was a medical condition, and that's rare.
You think I'm lying?
No.
Yes, because you're not giving me the pills, even though they do exist and would help my problem.
I think we should try some other things first.
So that's really interesting again, and really interesting encounter that we see a lot in GP. So difficulty sleeping is a really common symptom, and patients often want sleeping tablets. The thing is, we only very rarely give them, because really there's something else causing the poor sleep. So whether that's stress or anxiety or your mood or something else, and it's rarely the best option to just give a sleeping tablet, mainly because they're addictive, but also they just don't work long term. So there's definitely better ways of managing your sleep. So she just did the right thing there, and the patient was being a bit rude, but I think she handled that pretty well.
I googled rashes, and as you can see, skin irritations
Okay,
can look very different, but none of them anything like what I've got.
I only gave you the
Oh,
cream
man.
yesterday.
It doesn't work.
Well, you're supposed to allow a week.
Okay, but if it's going to have an effect in a week, I should see some improvement by now, and there's nothing. I've also stopped using the washing powder, as you advised, but there's no evidence so far from that.
You'll have to leave. I'm afraid I'm not feeling very well.
But you're a doctor.
Ironic.
What is it? What's wrong with you?
I'm running a temperature. I feel quite sick, and to be honest, I've got a suspicion that whatever it is probably contagious.
Okay, so that's a big no-no. I mean, she's clearly making that up, but I guess the patient didn't realise that. I mean, that's that's definitely a terrible thing to do. And yes, we've all been there when we're struggling and a consultation is dragging on, but her manners, her non-verbal communication skills, her verbal communication skills are all terrible. Looking at the clock, feigning an illness, and then making the patient feel so uncomfortable that they have to leave. That was terrible. I don't know what to say. I mean, that should definitely not happen, and she's definitely crossing a line there.
Is everything okay?
Yes, nothing to worry about. I know we called, said it was urgent, but it's because I wanted to speak to you this morning.
I meant you. Your eyes are red.
Are you still having difficulty sleeping?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to give you the pills that you've asked for. Only a few, see if it helps.
Oh.
But I need something in return. A favour.
Okay, that is way, way, way past the line. She can't do that. So you can't blackmail or incentivize patients to do what you want in return for drugs, especially for sleeping tablets, which are addictive and can be harmful. That was really, really, really bad. So she's going off the rails a bit here.
Daniel Spencer,
Who are you?
I'm your doctor.
No, no.
I'm the senior partner, so I have overall responsibility. Could I come in? You know what medical records are.
What?
We record every conversation that you have with your doctor and it stays on file, and they can be extremely revealing. How's the new job? Responsibility?
What are you talking about?
Occasionally, these records get leaked and the wrong people get their hands on them. Employers, for instance. And they're full of the sorts of things that you wouldn't want people knowing. History of drug abuse, mental instability.
Whoa, okay, so there's the line, there's where she was before, and way over there is where she is right now. That is way out of line, and you definitely cannot do any of those things. I mean, the whole thing is messed up. She firstly got the patient before on the sleeping tablets, manipulated her, and is now doing her a favour, but is going the complete wrong way about that. And you definitely cannot just share medical records to their employer without the patient's permission. Like, you can't do that. So she was lying, she was blackmailing him, she's definitely broken all the rules. So she's really giving GPs a bad name. I mean, you don't have a great record in the news already, and this is just making it worse. I mean, so that was my take on the very first episode of Dr. Foster. Seems like a really good dramatic series, but the medical stuff there was just, I mean, she was going way out of line. So this was a bit of a different video for me, a reaction for a TV show, but I hope you liked it, and if you did, make sure you hit like and subscribe at the bottom, and comment on any other videos you think I should do. And I guess I'll see you next time. See ya.